Alright, guys. How are you doing? Alright. There is a technical difficulty. And while it's being worked on, I'm going to tell you some kind of announcement. How many people from you guys register for the live group?
Hey, what's your type?
My type.
Alright, let's see the video because people get distracted. Alright, go on.
What's your type?
My type would be tall, dark skin, handsome. But spiritually, something that inspires me to grow my faith further and just learn more about these different
Tall, dark skin.
What about from a personality perspective? Learning someone who's something you can hear is helping you.
Okay. Alright. Put it a little forward. Just play it. Hey, so you. So what's your criterion?
For what? First of all, the question is wrong. The question should be, who's going to be the luckiest woman alive? First and foremost, she got to be between like 5'2" and 5'5". Other than that, in all seriousness, one, she needs to be able to communicate. She needs to have a good sense of humor. Just a little weird, almost boring. Weird. And family oriented. Yep.
So what's your type?
My type? Someone who's, I guess, funny. Funny is the main thing. As long as we share the same sense of humor, then we'll get along. That's basically the most important thing.
Hannah, what's your type?
physically, superficially dark tall and handsome. But what I've learned is the foundation of it is someone who shares the same heart that I do.
I want to grow up who can help me spiritually. The Bible says iron sharpens iron, so I want to grow up who can hold me accountable and help me where I lack in my spiritual life. But I also want to do that for her as well. I want to help her where she lacks spiritually too. So I just want to grow who's motivated and on the same climb to Christ as I am, and we could help like each other on that climb, up that mountain. Okay. What's your type?
I guess not too different from yours. Someone who is not only a woman of God, but someone who can also help me grow in my faith. Because if the relationship isn't helping me grow in my faith, I feel like it would have a negative impact on my spiritual life, which is something I don't want. So yeah, church girl. Someone who goes to church all the time.
Basically.
Basically.
What about from a personality perspective?
Someone who resembles me. I know people say opposites attract, but I want someone who's like me, low-key, like me. This is someone who's not reserved, like me.
For me personally, I would want someone who has a sense of humor. That's big for me because I love joking around, I love being sarcastic. So someone who would be able to take that as a joke and also be able to reciprocate that with me. So, we could share laughs or whatever.
So you control her and she controls you.
Exactly. That's a perfect relationship right there.
That's a powerful
David, what's your type? What's your type of girl?
Man, get this.
Alright. So going back, we had a very nice time the past Friday. I hope a lot of people registered for the life group. I would recommend. It's where you get more, interactive, personal, and share experiences. So it was a great time. There was a guys life group, and then for the ladies, we had a great time. We had a blast. We played ping pong. The guys, we discussed, but yeah, we played ping pong, and at the end, it took us at least an hour, 2 hours to discuss, but we finished around 9:45 p.m. Yeah, and then I drove home because the ladies was at our house, an hour drive, and when I get there, they're just starting. And I found a lot of tissues on the floor, sharing a lot of emotions and things like that. But it was a great time. So please utilize that, because sometimes we don't have that kind of support group. So it really helps you guys. Today, I don't know if you guys also saw on the social media, we have a prize to give. Unfortunately, I forgot the prize. But what we're gonna do is, I'll bring it, we'll take the name, connection table, and then I'll bring it on next week. The prize was the book. It's really helpful for our relationship and spiritual life. But again, I'm gonna ask the questions because it relates to what we're gonna learn. And the questions, as you saw on social media, is about the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks of classes. So we find it's useful or efficient to do that instead of at the end of class to give exam, because nobody's going to show up. So I'll just shout out the question in the middle of my sermon, and then you raise your hand and answer it. You'll get a book. All right? All right, so today's title. What was today's title? Choosing with the purpose. Choosing with the purpose. If you guys remember, the first thing is we defined it. Understanding what it means. Dating, what is dating, and everything. After that, usually in the relationship, there's an attraction. Could be you have your own types, but there's attraction. But then, while there is attraction, the next step is just to kind of sit down and then what's the purpose of me, pursuing whatever significant other through the relationship. So choosing with the purpose is a perfect fit in kind of the phases of the next part in a relationship. So there's 3 objectives that you might saw it on your papers. The first thing that we're going to do is, when we choose for a purpose, that means eventually at the end we will have a purpose, a goal. And that goal in some way, if it doesn't align with God's purpose for our life, there is always trials and tribulations. So finding a way to align God's purpose and then our purpose in a relationship. That would be the objective of today's teaching. And the second one is, now I wanted to make my relationship, my dating, to be purposeful, same way as God intended. But how do I know that it is purposeful? What are the characteristics? What are the traits of being purposeful in pursuing a purposeful relationship? We'll see that. And third thing that we see is that God's involvement in my dating life. Actually, we start from the back or the end. God's involvement. How's God's involvement in our relationship? So that's how we're going to start. All right, so purpose from God, we see the Genesis topic, how we are created and how God created Adam and Eve. We see that, and we see God's purpose even before we are created. God created the heavens, the earth, the planets, the sea, and He made everything perfect for the one that's going to come. So He prepared everything. He had a purpose. The purpose is not just to create birds. The purpose is not just to create valleys and rivers. God's purpose is doing creating all those for His purpose, which is the one that's come next. Who's going to be created? The mankind, through His image, in His image. And we see that in our life also. We see that in our life. So, of course, when we're young, it's a little bit different. But when we're older, we have to have a purpose. If we want to buy a house, we've got to save money and do all the, the credits and things like that. When we want to buy a car, same thing. When we want to achieve our education, we need to go to college and save money to pay the loan, and everything. All the steps needs to be taken care of for the end goal, or the end result. Otherwise, what's going to happen is how we are as a kid, like when we were very young. How many of you, when you were young, wanted to be a doctor? Raise your hands. Half people. Policeman, or firefighter, engineer, and all of those things, right? When we're very young. Sometimes when we're young, we kind of dress the way that we want it to be in the future, right? Some people, when they're young, they would dress as a doctor with a stethoscope, thinking that in the future, I mean, they wouldn't think in the future, but that's how they would see themselves. Most of us did that. And do you want to guess what I used to be, what I wanted to be when I was young? A lot of people would say that, right? A priest. To the point, it's very contrary. Don't laugh at me. Don't all of those things. All right? Because that's where before I find Jesus. So can you put it on the screen? I wanted to be a rapper. Thanks. One support. Appreciate it. That is me. Yeah, people do. Yeah, but that's me. Yeah, take it over. Alright. So, when we're young, we act like what we want it to be. Right? And sometimes we tend to make our relationship like that. Right? We act like we're married even before we get married. Right? So we need to know that God's purpose in our life is eventually to achieve something, but there has to be a work towards it. God wants to be in our relationship from the beginning until the end. Heavenly Father and earthly Father is, to some extent, it would be similar, but it's different. Think about it. Especially in the youth, you see, like, if you want to hang out with your friends, you would go to your father or mother, let's say for this case, father, and say, Dad, can you give me some money? I want to spend time with my friends. He would give you money, you would go and then have fun with your friends. But God is not like that. You would ask God, He would give you whatever that you intended, whatever you asked, but He wanted to be throughout the process of your life. You would ask for a significant other, girlfriend. You pray. He would give you, but at the same time, He wants to be there with you when you are in the movie theater. He wants to be there with you when you are alone in the car. He wants to be there with you when you get married. He wants to be there with you when you get old and to the point of your deathbed. That's the Heavenly Father. That's God's purpose in our life. He wants to be there with you. That's how much He loves you. Every step of the life, that's His purpose. So we shouldn't think God as, yeah, we ask Him for something, but then, no, I don't want you to participate in the other aspect of my life. It doesn't work like that. our point for today, the main point is, even in dating, God is for us, not against us. God wants to be with us to succeed in everything, especially in dating. Do you remember what verse that we learned in the first time when we see the syllabus? I repeat it again and again. That's actually the trivia question. You'd get a book, and it's the empty space. You guys remember? That it states that God is always wants something for us for a better. Anybody? Yes? No? You're losing a book? All right, you'll tell me I just want you to learn these verses because the Word of God is what we needed in our life to pursue. So I'll say the whole verse and you tell me what book. If you guys remember, we repeatedly say, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. My plan is to prosper you, not to harm you. My plans is to give you hope and future." Anybody remember that verse? She's gonna get a book. Give her the name of this book. Not that book. It's a different book. She would get that book. It's a different book. Alright. So, yeah. God's purpose and plan for our lives is to prosper, to be happy in every state that we go. We don't want to participate God in our relationship. And then when it's in turmoil, they're like, "Oh God, where are you?" From the beginning, He wanted to be there for you. He wanted to be part of it. It's just that we didn't allow it. There is, and the other things, if you remember, in the first week of class, we defined some terminologies. Boyfriend, girlfriend, in a relationship. Remember? And the secular world also give that definition. For the sake of this class, we say it is dating, but also this is a trivia. We say there is something common in all of those. One thing is common, if you remember. Anybody remember? Anybody? Yes? No? Alright. Alright. We say the depth of relationship. The depth of relationship is in some way what defines what stage you are or how you give the title. Boyfriend, we're engaged. We're in a relationship. But there is a different side of what we're going to talk today is naming of that relationship. That's not based on the depth of it, but based on the purpose. I found out that there is a difference between we're just friends and we're friends. Or we're just friends and friends with benefits. Or we're just talking. We're just talking. We'll see that one. And one of my all-time favorites, I know most of you just went away from Facebook and the relationship part of Facebook. What's the favorite part? What the favorite everyone would say? It's complicated. It's complicated. Our first note for today. God's purpose and our purpose in a relationship is not to be complicated. It's not for our relationship to be complicated. It shouldn't. And I'm going to go off a little out of limp a little bit here and say it. It's not the other person, it's not the family or whatever who complicates. It's you, it's us, the person who complicates relationship. I give you that. It's given that relationships can be hard. It can be hard, but it shouldn't be complicated. If you have a purpose, if you have a clear intention in a relationship, it shouldn't be complicated. It could be hard. And it will be hard because of the interactions, your past life and the other person's past life and everything, but you can't complicate that. It shouldn't be complicated. So, but we're always, when we are asked about our relationships, it's kind of a little bit complicated. I hear that a lot. I put two very important points over here, and I really, really want you guys to read it or even at home just to contemplate it. There are two things that really complicates relationships. The first thing is a physical and emotional, attachment. If there is a physical and emotional attachment, that's what complicates relationship. I heard this from somewhere, some person. So when we were talking, okay, relationship and everything, and they would tell me, oh yeah, it's complicated. We get attracted to each other, we made out, and yeah, he flirts with the other person, but he's still nice. So I like that something about him. But then I was mad, so I broke up with him. Should I get back with him? When we hear things like this, we would sometimes say, wow, people would go through that, but it's to be honest, it's most of our life. Especially when there is a physical intimacy. In every physical intimacy, there is some part of our life, some part of our essence that goes with the other person. And now it gets complicated. So we went all this because that means he loves me, right? No. Yes, maybe. Guys, we would say, oh, we need to sleep with each other to know that we're physically or relationally compatible. And if we have chemistry, all these things complicate relationships. And we wouldn't know that if that's the right relationship or not. And then as a human being, because we were created in God's image, there's that conscience inside of us always that rebukes us. And we need to, every time we need to fight with it. It's tiring. That's the first thing. St. Paul say this, like, it's amazing. I didn't think I put it in your notes, but especially about, we have one whole week talking about sex, but there's something that he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 15. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 15. He says, do you not know that your body are members of Christ himself? Shall I then take this member of Christ and unite them with a prostitute or other person? Never. Do you not know that he who unites himself with, here in his sense, prostitute, is one with her body? For its sake, the two will become one. See, in our secular world teachings, we learn that, okay, we become one when we get married in the government and everything. But in God's essence, also sleeping with one another is becoming one. So if this body is Christ's member, Christ's body, should I take this and see? Physical intimacy complicates relationship. And the second one is not knowing ourselves complicates relationships. Not knowing ourselves. How many relationships didn't work out because we just jumped into the relationship because we never knew what we like? Do you like orange or apple? Very simple as that. Sometimes we don't know. Because since the young age, in teens and whatever, we start a relationship, and then we somehow thought that your purpose in a relationship is to, quote unquote, satisfy the other person. So they say, again, I'll be a little bit hard for the guys, but I'll come back. close to. But if they say like, no, I don't like so and so, then our minds start to, fight with my essence, myself, to like what the other person liked without, first of all, that I didn't like it. Do you guys get what I'm saying? And at the end, for example, let's say the girl's morale or fundamentals is not to sleep with that person, and then the person will say, no, I don't like a person who doesn't share physically or whatever with me, because how would I trust that person? Now she would break that for the sake of satisfying the other person. Now at the end, she wouldn't know that was my identity, or like what I like, what I wanted to do in life and everything, but now I forgot. And I just focus on that, but not only just intimacy, other things. It could be your career. It could be your spiritual friends. But you will be forced to like what the other person like, not to just, you lose your essence and yourself for the sake of that relationship. So what complicates the relationships, the second one, it's very important, and hopefully in the life group you guys would talk about it, is first of all knowing yourself. You have to know yourself. What do you like? What's your intention in life? What are your hobbies? What do you want to pursue in your life? Not only just giving up everything that I have for that relation. And again, St. Paul says it in this way. He says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewal when He created us for our relationships to be complicated. It could be hard, and with God, in our relationship, everything is easy. But complication comes from our own desires. And second, and actually I think one of my favorite, is God's purpose in our life is not to stay in the honeymoon phase. God's will, remember we said aligning our will with God's will is what magnificently changed our relationship, our life. So know that God's will in our life is not to stay on the honeymoon phase. I hope you guys know what honeymoon phase means, right? Honeymoon phase, having that rose, and taking out the rose, saying, loves me not, loves me not. Or driving 2 hours from VCU to Silver Spring. to just see my future wife. That's the honeymoon phase. And I'm saying not have a honeymoon phase. And definitely you're going to have that. But we shouldn't decide just to linger on that and want your entire relationship to have that same feeling, that time in your honeymoon phase. And think about it. I had to sit down and really thought about why is God not intended for us to be in the honeymoon phase? And I think you would, if you contemplate, you would understand that, because think about it. If you're in the honeymoon phase, most of us, if you're honest, do you do like actual things? You just sit down and wait for your phone, right? Just check our phones. Did she call? She's not called. I can't wait to see it. There is work, a lot of work that you would done, but your focus is only about that, just pumping your blood and everything, the excitement. So we want that excitement without the commitment. Staying in the honeymoon phase means not wanting excitement without the commitment. And a lot of people do that. And the second thing, and the most important thing, is in that honeymoon phase, there is no correcting each other, right? Right? It doesn't matter whatever that person does, whatever, right? We're like, no, he's an angel, she's an angel. But then after that honeymoon phase goes, that's when you see, oh, you have a temperament issue. You have an anger issue. You gossip. All of those things are coming to your mind, but not in the honeymoon phase. So if you're staying in the honeymoon phase, how are you going to build each other? Do you get it? So honeymoon phase is needed just to, kind of a jump start in a way, but that's not God's intention, not to stay in the honeymoon phase. But some of us entertain the idea of togetherness without it being together, kind of in the honeymoon phase, right? And that's one of the things, especially I really wanted to emphasize for us in our generation, at this moment, even people that are even in the church. We're just talking. We're just talking. Texting each other. You know what I'm trying to say, what we wanted to text and say, like, how she's going to respond back, how he's going to respond back. And in our idea, we're just talking. But again, God's intention for our life is not just to talk. As a Christian, we have to be intentional and have purpose for everything that we do. And that we're just talking, sometimes without you knowing it, you're affecting people's emotions. People's emotions would be hurt. If you have not, this is the most important thing. If you don't have an intention to be eventually in a relationship, guys, do not flirt. Girls, do not lead. I tried to put a lot of examples here, but I think you get the point. If someone texts 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. and says, "Hi, how are you doing?" What is the intention? The girl texting or FaceTime, Instagram and whatever, saying, "Oh, is that your girlfriend? Who's that next to you?" And this is just a very basic example. All of you guys know what you do when you text or call or whatever to kind of a little flirt with no intention of relationship because it brings a little excitement in your life. It could be a little bit pride because now she likes me. Or him, I'm just gonna make him a little work. Right? That's, in a sense, without a relationship, getting the honeymoon phase. Because you get excitement. And I know a lot of people, especially within the church, they would do the same thing, text, Instagram, and other places, about a relationship without no intention of pursuing a relationship. That's not God's purpose in our life. And that's not how we align our purpose with God's purpose. If you don't have any intention of being in a relationship, do not lead. As a brother and sister, have a boundary and then continue whatever relationship. Brotherly and sisterly relationship. Just don't only focus on that excitement phase because that's not God's intention. There was a verse. And this is actually, there's a story in the Bible. And with the apostles. If you remember apostles, I think in Matthew chapter 10 and 11, so he would ordain them, give them a power and everything, and then he would send them to the world. to heal people, to do amazing miracles. They would go and then they heal people here, they preach, they cast out demons, and they got so excited, that excitement. Then they came back to Christ. Christ, you never know what we did. Like, we did all these things, it's amazing, we wanted to do every time, we just want to live in this way. What was God's response? What was Christ's response? Do not be excited because you cast out demons. Why you should be excited and gracious is because your name is written in the kingdom of heaven. Because God knows each and individual of you by your name. That's why you should be grateful, not these excitement things. And in one other place, the Pharisees would come and they'd ask Christ, why your apostles, your followers, why are not they fasting? And he'd give them an example. The disciples wouldn't fast when the bridegroom is there. It's kind of a similar idea of, because at that time it's a honeymoon phase, it's just fun and everything. But when he would be taken away, Christ be taken away to heaven, then they will fast. It's the same thing in our relationship. That excitement moment might be taken away. And we need, as a purpose, in a purposeful relationship, we need to understand that, yeah, that's excitement and everything, but it might go away, but that doesn't mean that a person doesn't love me or I don't love them. I would say my wife, I love you, same way that I did before. But it might not have that excitement, but that doesn't mean there's no affection. Because at that time, before we start marriage, then there's, wow, she still loves me and everything. But that's been evident in marriage. Now it's kind of affirmation when we say, I love you. So some people might, because I know some people would think in the future, I wouldn't want to go to relationships, especially in marriage, because why? What if after I get married, I'm kind of tired of the person? See, if you're in a purposeful relationship, some things might change. That excitement every time in a relationship might not be there in a marriage. But it would be changed. To be caring, to be like a grown-up relationship. And that's God's intention for us. Not to stay always in that honeymoon phase. Why? We come to the third one. Why? Because God's purpose in our relationship is to impact the world. To impact the world. That's why I said earlier, if you're always in the honeymoon phase, how we would do things that would impact the world? No. But then now you have a helper, from the guy from the woman part, doesn't matter, you have a helper, the ultimate purpose of God, to become the light of the world. Matthew chapter 5 verse 14, you are the light of the world. Who is the eternal light? Christ. So he emanated or shared with his grace in our life, him being the light to the world, then it's given to us. That's why he said, as I was the light, the eternal, the divine light, now you guys are light to the world. That's the purpose for our life. If your purpose is just to fool around, and eventually when you get tired, all right, I see everything, so I might as well, because everybody does it, I might as well just get married, and then the next part is just have kids. All right, I'll have kids, work, have a house, yep. Then I retire and just sit down. If that's your life, it is sad. It is sad. That's the empty place there. It is sad. Your purpose in life, every individual here, your purpose in life is to impact the world. Please, take a time to see, those 12 people turned the world upside down. 12 people. To the point Christianity to come to us, to Europe, everywhere. 12 people. How many people are here right now? Let's just say 50. how much impact will we do to the world? How many people are right now at this moment are in despair, lost hope, are in pain, lost their loved ones, they needed comfort, and all of those things. If your intention in relationship is just to be whatever people do it, so let me do it, then you're missing out the purpose of God. The purpose of God is to impact the world for you. Some people might say, all right, I'll just do dating, and it might not affect me in my life because I'm not in a marriage. You might not marry who you date, you might not, but it's for sure it will affect your future life. And we've seen that. Many people be in a situation of unexpected pregnancy. Those people who had intention in the future to do amazing things, now unexpectedly they have a child, so they just, it's God's gift. I'm not saying another way, but at the same time, your purpose, you have to, lose it now. And because of past relationship, how many of us has a distorted understanding of female and male? Right? Some people completely hate men because of their past relationship, or same way, some guys hate all of the females or have a different understanding because of the past relationship. And because of that baggage, that burden in their life, it would affect them not to pursue what God intended them to do. Therefore, when we start a relationship, we have to have a purpose. And that purpose is also at the end, God's purpose in my life is to impact the world. Sometimes we would say, I invested too much to this relationship, so I might just, stuck with it. That's not God's intention. And you would see this in the movies, or people would say that, oh, my intention before I get married is to do this, to travel the world and do all of those things. But now, God's intention in your relationship is whatever that He puts in your heart, the talent that He puts in your heart, to achieve it. And the amazingness of God is, and since He knows that sometimes it's hard by ourselves to achieve that, He would give us a helper. So, in starting dating, in a relationship, this has to come to the discussion. What's your passion? What do you want to achieve in the future? And the other person should always strive to encourage and push that person to achieve what they intended. Otherwise, relationship is just, it loses its purpose of impacting the world. Finally, the fourth one, God's purpose in our life, or I should say it a different way, our purpose in dating a relationship should be, at the end, the glory of God. The glory of God. Why? Because He paid it all and He showed that for us on the cross. It says He gave up His glory for the sake of saving us. So in turn, the little thing that we can do is show God's glory in our relationship. Now this is a very touchy topic, so I'll try my best not to offend some people, but it's the Word of God. It says, whatever you do it in the glory of God. And at the bottom, one of the verses that I put there, I'll tell you, whoever publicly acknowledges me before others, the Son of Man, which is Christ, will acknowledge Him in the kingdom of heaven. Now, if the commandment that Christ gave us is to acknowledge and then testify Christ publicly, then why is it hard to testify Christ within our relationship? Let me say it in a different way. That's a good thing in the video. Like it's not a good representation of the world because most of the people are from around the church area, and we say, oh, one of my criteria is faith. And I talked to a lot of people, and yeah, one of the criteria is he has to be Christian, he has to be Orthodox. Really? Truly ask your heart, is it really, or is it just saying it? Are you just saying it for that, oh, how you're a Christian, you're Orthodox, how? No, deep down. You know how would I know? Search your relationships. Is a person being Orthodox? Is it a criteria? Unfortunately for most of us, it's either the last criteria or it's not. So, how would you testify about that? If you wouldn't testify within the relationship that this is what I believe, this is my faith, you know, you become one with that person eventually. So that it's unfortunate to see that a lot of times faith is not a factor. Orthodoxy is not a factor. And I hear a lot that, no, but you don't know, like, the person is very good, he's God-fearing, and I know eventually I'll change him. And he'll be converted. First of all, you might convert the person that you love. But if he is converting for the sake of being with you, that's a problem right there. The person has to accept orthodoxy, apostolic faith, understanding, and believing in it. Not for the sake of just loving one person. No. Of course, you might sit down in the intention and then truly after you understand that I want, not for the sake of you, but I want it to be Orthodox, by all means, that's actually apostolic work. That's like evangelism. But mostly it's not like that. You know how would I know? Being in the church for the past, 20 years, I see a lot of converts being baptized. How many of them stayed within the church? How many of them stayed within spiritual activities that we see? You wouldn't see a lot. Yeah, my husband is like, yeah, but he doesn't want to come to church. Yeah, he's baptized, but he doesn't want to come to church. Was God's purpose just to convert somebody or to convert their life for the sake of His glory? See, God's purpose, or even your purpose, is not just becoming Orthodox. That's a part of it. But you have to live Orthodoxy life way throughout your life. With their participation of communal worship, partaking communion, confession, all of those things. Otherwise, it's just for the sake of, you don't have a relationship, not to leave that person, not to lose the person. And even for us, there is this notion of as long as that person is a Christian, whatever denomination Christian, it's okay. So, when you testify about God, I would read it, right? Christ says, if you testify about me. So what are we going to testify? What is testifying means? What does testifying means? You know what testifying means? Testifying means the creed that we read. Believing God the Father Almighty, who created heaven and earth. Believing in Jesus Christ the Lord, who is begotten from the Father. Perfect, co-equal with the Father. One, not even co-equal, one with the Father. Understanding the essence and the integral part of intercessory work. Understanding how we value the saints. How we value and give honor to our Mother, the Holy Virgin Mary. All of those things are, if you don't have that essence, then what are you testifying? What are you testifying? Because God-fearing, the Bible says, not even people. The demons fear God. Not only fear God, they believe in Him. That's what the Bible says. The demons fear God and they believe in Him. But they don't want to associate themselves with God. That's different. So don't tell me just, oh, believe in God, that's fine. The demons believe in God. Your everyday sacrifice in life, fasting and prostrating, all of those things that we learn, striving to accomplish that, striving to learn the Bible every day, that's testifying God, that's orthodoxy. And it has to be one of your top criteria in relationship. And we did a lot of disservice, I think, or we tried our best, but for in this generation, it's nothing. So one of the purpose of God and our purpose is if it is for the glory of God is going to be manifested by testifying about Christ, who He is, and how He saved me in my life. And that was told for us, passed on from generations to generations through the apostolic teachings. That is orthodoxy. So that has to be the criteria. But again, I'm not saying just completely avoid anybody. I'm saying if people are sit down and then learning and truly from their own heart try to understand and then be orthodox, that's even more magnificent. The relationship is godly, and the same thing, you bring that person to the authentic faith. But if you're just saying, that's fine. Remember one of the things I should have put in the trivia? We said one thing common of the world relationship, and here is, the first is there is depth, and what was the second one, if you remember? Second one. We said your understanding of dating and relationship will affect generations. Will affect generations. You have no idea when I travel and when I hear from here and everything, the people that tell me they're confused about their faith. Because the father is in a different denomination, the mother says they have to come here and everything. How does that start? Not changing mentality in the beginning. Sorry not to offend anybody, but that's the truth. It has to be a purpose in our life before we choosing and then pursue relationship. First one is understanding that I shouldn't complicate. I have to clear my intentions. Second, orthodoxy or faith has to be the integral part of choosing my purpose or my dating. And I should not rely only just the infatuation of that excitement faith. I have to continue progressing because God's purpose for me is to impact the world. Glory be to God. If you have any questions, we'll leave it for you guys. That's one of the perks coming here. I would suggest everyone to come here. Did you turn it off? Yeah, we would suggest everyone to come here because we would have a little time to ask if you have any questions, to talk to me later on if you have anything to talk to me about. So, and also, the red heart right there, you could put any questions in there if you have. We'll address it in our live groups and also, I think, in the panel discussion later on. Can turn it off, but if you have any questions,